the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dan?
Yep.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we're just doing roll call. Okay.
Yep.
Councillor Olson is
Here.
via telephone. Councillor Bridge. Councillor Bender. Councillor Stenberg. Councillor McDonald. Councillor Joyle. Councillor Finsland. Councillor Herrick. Councillor McKenzie. And Councillor Brown.
Recognize the quorum will proceed. We'll ask for vote of proclamations and commendations.
The Superior Rotary Club is presenting checks to the Superior Police and Parks and Recreation Departments.
I'm Warren Bender. I'm president of Superior Rotary, and this is
Ed Anderson. Some of you may recognize me from a previous life. I live at 607 East 7th Street, and I was the co-chair of the 2012 Dragon Boat Festival at Superior.
And before we present the checks, Ed, did you want to say a couple words about how successful this year's festival was?
Well, I can't give you the exact numbers yet because we haven't had a wrap-up meeting yet, but I can say that we had 101 boats on the water this year, which was part of a goal we had set for us since it's the 100th anniversary of Superior Club 40 of Rotary. So we were hoping to have 100 boats, and we had 105 drop down to 101 who actually were on the water, so we met our goal. I believe Essentia raised over $80,000, I believe.
87.5.
Almost $90,000 for their charitable events. And aside from the big hole in the street, we made it work this year, and we had a very successful festival. And I'm sure that we thank you at the City Council for supporting our event, and we're going to be doing it again next year, so we'll be back before you with the same kind of deal, and hopefully we'll make it even better next year. Thank you for your support, and now we have some money to give back.
That's correct. And just to echo one thing that Ed said, and we're very thankful for the cooperation of all of the departments from the City of Superior, and especially of the police department, who so many officers. In fact, Mark McGillis spent many hours out there directing traffic, and also for Parks and Rec. And we could not do this without the cooperation and the support of the City of Superior. So saying that, I guess we want to make the presentation now.
Sure. This is actually, this one will go to the police chief, I believe. I think she's starting to take a picture. Look at the camera. Okay, I look. Didn't know she could.
You might as well wait a second.
Let's get so comfortable after. Right, your hands are cold. Right. Anyway, this is for your police auxiliary.
Now Mary gets to hold her end of the check.
It's a big check. That's actually got the wrong amount for the big check. Mary,
Thank you, sir.
thank you very much for all of your.
Thank you, Mary. We really appreciate it. All of it. Everything Parks and Rec.
I'll get to put my arm around this one.
Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
On behalf of the citizens of Superior and all the people that had a great time down there, and all the volunteers that made this happen, and the direction and guidance by the Rotary Club, we thank you so much.
Item number 4 is approval of the minutes of the September 4th regular council meeting and the September 10th special council meeting.
You've heard the motion, a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 6 is a consent agenda.
You've heard the motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 7.1, Finance Director Vito is submitting updated 2012 and 2013 general fund budgets. This was originally approved at the August 21st regular council meeting, and a motion to reconsider was approved at the September 4th meeting with discussion referred to this meeting. And you have before you tonight a memo from the mayor and also a revised budget from Finance Director Vito.
I'd like to call on Attorney Prell right now to speak of the formality and legality of the process that may take place.
Certainly. I just want to try to keep this going procedurally as smoothly as we can. Most of you recall the August 21st council meeting wherein the budget that was before you was approved. Immediately following that meeting, a motion to reconsider was appropriately or correctly brought before the body, and that motion to reconsider was seconded and ratified by you. And that occurred on September the 4th under the condition that the substantive dialogue or the conversation about the budget would be delayed until tonight, in large part to allow full participation by the mayor. So just to remind you, and you probably don't need it, but it helps me, the effect of that successful motion to reconsider is to bring back to you tonight the original budget that was presented to you on August 21st, and at that time at least was approved. However, as Finance Director Vito will explain in a moment, some events have occurred since August 21 that have compelled her at least to make some adjustments to that budget, and that's what you have in front of you right now. It's dated 9/18/12, and you'll see the word revised in the upper left-hand corner. So that might very well become the operative document for the evening. And I believe that you'll hear Finance Director Vito suggest to you that a reapproval of the August 21st budget as it was before you that night would not be in at least in the administration's best interest. So a couple of things to keep in mind procedurally. Before you right now is the motion to reconsider the August 21st budget. The motion to reconsider has already been voted on and ratified and tabled until tonight. So the motion before you right now, the one that needs to be addressed, I think, at least first, is whether or not you want to reapprove the budget that was before you on August the 21st. And again, if you're inclined to listen to the suggestions of staff, you won't hear her urge you to do that. She'll want that August 21 budget not adopted for various reasons. I think it's really awkward to present a motion in the form of a negative. We've done it, but it's confusing. In other words, a motion to deny or a motion to repeal or a motion to withdraw, I think is awkward because then your yes is a no and your no is a yes. So one way of doing it, you can do it that way. I'm not saying that that's not something we won't navigate, but one way of doing it, if you're not inclined to adopt the August 21st budget as it appeared to you that night, 3 meetings ago, is simply not to make a motion. If you don't make a motion, it can't be approved and it can't be adopted. Then we will get, I think, the lion's share of at least the budgetary component of this meeting will be in analyzing and explaining the revised budget that you have before you right now. And to the extent that one or more of you might be inclined to approve that later on down as the meeting progresses, a motion to approve that revised budget would be appropriate. So I hope that gives you some sense procedurally for how this ought to go. I know it's a little layered. I'm not well versed, particularly in the context of a budget that's been adopted and then a motion to reconsider brought forward immediately. That's kind of a new twist for me, but I think we've got all of our ducks in a row thus far.
Would it be appropriate to make a motion to rescind the budget as adopted?
Sure, we can do that. If the motion.
Okay, since I was a motion maker to adopt that budget, I'd like to make a motion to rescind the budget that we adopted on August 21st.
And assuming that might get a second, just urge you folks to remember that when it comes to voting on this, yes basically means no. Yes, if you vote yes, you're voting to rescind the document as it appeared in front of you on August 21st.
Second.
You've heard the motion and second to rescind the budget that was presented to you on August 21st. Discussion. Councilor McKenzie.
So making that motion to rescind means that it didn't happen then. Is that correct?
Right, that budget as it appeared before you on August 21st, if you vote to rescind it in a moment, it will take it out of play. It'll be a budget that will not be adopted.
Yeah, right. Okay.
The discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Mayor?
I'm sorry. Councilor Olson.
Yes, if I could, during discussion here, as long as there is no more, I've prepared a little speech of some of the concerns that I have on this. So if I could be allowed here, first of all, thank you for allowing me to participate tonight from my phone and watch along on my computer. And there's a little delay, so it's kind of fun doing this. Over the last few weeks, I've gathered a lot of information about our budget issues. Although I don't have any answers better than anyone else does, I do have some opinions, of which some are strong. From the day I started thinking about being a counselor to today, I've always had the philosophy of doing my best, of making the best decisions about providing the best possible services to our community with the least expensive impact to our taxpayers, our homeowners, and property owners. In my job as a labor leader, I too have to make the same tough decisions as you do as department heads, an attorney, and or the mayor. I've also stated in committee meetings that it's better to have a budget surplus than to spend and end up with a budget deficit. Budgets are nothing more than estimates and are used as a yardstick to measure actual revenue and expenses. And in my job, I have to manage and administer a budget. And what I have found to work the best is to monitor it regularly. And I know we've done that. Operating costs and revenues should balance out daily, monthly, and yearly. Unless, of course, you get 8 inches of rain in June like we did this year, then it's all bets are off. Now, for my strong opinions, and I have them, and I'm sure I'm not going to be well popular with some people, but I don't believe that we should impose the 3-point tax levy as recommended when the current rate for commercial municipalities is 2.6 for operating costs. In the next 3 months, the department heads in the finance department are going to present 9 budgets to us for approval for the 2013 fiscal year, and that's on a spreadsheet that you've all looked at. Also, the wastewater and stormwater budgets are probably going to be asking for an increased fees to home and property owners. As far as the occupational taxes that we collect and the decrease that we've seen this year, it's hard to control that. But we should have been able to see that happening all along and anticipated it earlier than September. On the other side of things, I see the economic development that we currently have going on in our community and the ones in front of us. I'm aware of more than a dozen projects that will act as part of our tax base. These business and job opportunities will also create more spending in our community. With the proposed levy increase being set forth tonight, I cannot support balancing our general fund on the backs of our citizens, especially when it comes to laying off a worker who depends on employment in this city to provide a living and health care for his family. And I am aware that these people may be hired back in January. But while doing this, one of the departments has actually asked for an increase to help pay for their health and pension contributions. Now, to come to employees, you all know how I feel about that compaction issue. CAMU, especially if you're there. And this may be a reverse form where we may see some bad ill feelings. In closing, my recommendation is to come up with a lower levy increase identify the budget issues that we need to be corrected, and tighten up on the belts of the departments that need to be balanced better. Remember the budget and the yardstick, because no money changes hands if we have a budget surplus. It's there. The only time we have problems is if we get into a situation where we're spending and ended up with a deficit. Thank you.
Thank you. You've heard the motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carried. You have before you a revised budget presented by the Finance Department, Finance Director. Director Vito, would you describe that?
Thank you, Mayor. What I'm hoping to do is kind of tie us in from where we were on August 21st to where we are today. And Councilor Olson, for your benefit, I'll apologize because we're working off of a document here that was just finished at, we had changes coming up to as late as 3 p.m. today. And so all the rest of the councilors do have that in front of them, but what I will do is go through all of the changes that make up the new balance so we can go from August 21st to today. So the...
One moment, please. Councilor, can you hear Director Vito?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So the detailed information that the council has is this budget document. This should look familiar to you. This was a part of the council packet for tonight. And you have also the one-page summary that is what I work off of as any of the changes come forward. And absolutely, we do have a lot of them, and that is a very typical thing at this time of the year. So back on August 21st, I'm not going to go through the majority of what I presented at that time because the majority of what's in this budget is still the same. But we did have a few changes, and all three of them were large, or two of them were large, and one is a number of line items that is not that large. So when we presented on August 21st, I think the key things that the council was focusing on that time were things like the 3.8% levy increase that was included in the budget at that time. That still is included in what's presented for you to consider tonight. We started out on August 21st with a contingency of around $243,000. Since that time, we had, in the week of September 6th, we did find the reduction in the occupational taxes that was very significant, $337,000, and I anticipate that to be a long-term reduction that won't turn around. We also, the week of, was last week, I met with Battalion Chief Scott Gordon, and he provided an excellent analysis. I know he spent a lot of time working on the full effects of what would happen to the overtime budget in the fire department if the staffing changes that were recommended on the 21st stayed in play. So that is an issue that we know we need to deal with because you have to deal with it in one of two ways, and I don't think you necessarily need to decide that tonight, but you will need to decide it sometime soon, and that is, will you add back in a couple of those positions, either the one that was laid off or a vacant position, or will you fund overtime for the current employees? Either way, that decision has to happen because the fire department has come to a point in time where the reductions have to either be addressed through increased overtime or you're going to be looking at browning out a station because you don't have enough coverage, browning out or closing. And that on August 21st was something that was never brought forward for the council to consider because we didn't know that at that time. So that is a big change. That, to fix that, it's actually less expensive to add a couple more employees than it is to pay for overtime to cover all the shifts for everything. If a person is a firefighter is sick or a person's on vacation, I think there have been some disability or time off issues that have been much more common in 2012 than they were in the last few years. So that's an issue that has to get resolved. Yesterday, we got our shared revenue estimates. Shared revenue next to our levy is our major source of funding for our budget. And we were within $20,000 of the estimates, unfortunately $20,000 in the wrong way. When all this shakes out, after finding an additional $70,500 of revenue and other sources, it all came to 3 o'clock today of a $179,000 deficit in our budget, and that was after considering a 3.8% levy increase in this budget. I met with Mayor Hagan this afternoon, and he has recommended a fix for the $179,000, and that would be a reduction in the amount of funding that our general fund transfers over to our capital improvement program. That would mean cuts of $179,000 on the capital improvement program side. So at this point, you now have a balanced budget, and most certainly the discussion will be on the 3.8% tax levy. And I know that there have been requests for any one of us, members of administration, to provide answers on what would a reduction in that 3.8% tax levy, what would that mean to operations? And so I think every one of us is here. If you wish, we can open the budget up for question and answer. We can, each of us, speak individually if we need to make further reductions. But before we do that, I want to give you just a few general comments about the budget that's before you. Councilor Olson mentioned, I'm not sure where this came from, but a 2.6% increase in municipal service costs. I'm assuming that's annual. And so for a period of 2 years, we would have been looking at a 5.2% increase to keep up. We're looking at 3.8% after not having any levy increase in 2012. The 2012 and 2013 budgets have no salary increases for non-union staff, no salary increases for the technical clerical union, no salary increases for public works employees. The 2013 budget includes no increased costs for health insurance. We have been able to keep those costs at the same levels as 2012, and in addition, increased employee contributions in that area. At the same time, we do have very, very flat revenue, which I will speak of in a moment, but we still have utility costs, fuel costs, and operating costs that have inflationary increases each year that need to get covered. The 2013 budget that you have before you tonight is 1.2% higher, meaning 1.2% more funding than in the year 2008. This is 5 years later, and we're 1.2% above that year. The budget that's in front of you is less than the budget for 2010 and less than the budget for 2011. I think what we've done, the budget process is not just in August or September. It's a continual process. We're continually going through our budget. There is no question in my mind that the 2013 budget, whatever gets approved eventually here, it will come back to you again, undoubtedly. I've seen it happen for 2012. We've brought that one back at least twice. Our capital improvement program for the years 2009 to 2011 was brought back 8 times because of changes that happen. It definitely concerns me that we don't have a contingency in this budget, and there are other areas that the other department heads could speak to. We have, I believe, 20-some buildings that are in very poor condition that probably should be demolished, and we have no funding to do that. We have things that come up, like the Nemadji Trailer Park issue, Boss Electric building that's coming up for a demo, and these are all things that come up during the course of the year for which we have no contingency. So I guess the bottom line of what I'm saying is that I believe this is a very tight budget. We've in my opinion, gotten to the point over the last 5 years of very flat revenue that we've cut. Not only have we cut in staffing, we've cut in our capital outlay area. We have looked at every single line item. We've been able to do the work with the people that are left, that haven't been reduced through either a layoff or attrition. And I think we're at the point where if we're going to be looking at significant reductions from what is presented to you tonight, I'll be honest, I don't think there's any way we can do that without service level reductions.
I'd like to, this afternoon I penned a memo to the council after several meetings, both yesterday and today, with the new information that we have received and have worked through. And I'd like to read this for those that are here in the viewing and listening public, if you may, if you will. What I sent to the council, and they received it this evening, and I apologize for the very tardy receipt of this document. The revised general fund operating budget before you this evening allows for services as we currently provide the citizens of Superior, with some exceptions. The revised recommended budget calls for a 3.8% increase in the levy, which equals or equates to $29 per 100,000 of assessed valuation. So if you have a $100,000 home, the taxes would be $29 higher, and up or down from there. The exceptions that I'm speaking of are the fire department staffing reduction is of 3 firefighter positions, 2 vacant and 1 laid off. Police department staffing reductions of an assistant chief and 2 patrol officers. Reductions in police squad car purchases. The requirement to balance the fire department shortfall of $159,000. Reduced revenue sharing in the amount of $20,000, which was received just yesterday, and moving to a contingency fund that is reduced to 0. I want to dwell on that for a moment. Without a contingency fund, Director Vito mentioned the Boss Electric building, which has been condemned and ordered raised and affirmed by the court, could approach $100,000+. We do not have the money for that. Public Works and Building Inspection currently have about 45 structures in town that have been condemned, but we do not have the money to raise them. An average home costs about $7,000 to $10,000 to raise the structure, prepare the site, and then remove the material along with tipping fees. So the contingency fund, which will be 0, will not be able to assist us with any unknowns that always come before us, like the trailer park and several other things we've had to address. So that leaves us at bay. The recommendation that I've made to the council is with a 3.8% levy increase without staffing vacancies. The gap of $179,000 shortfall through transfers from the CIP to the general operating fund are recommended to come from the Tower Avenue project of $100,000, general maintenance street program of $29,000, annual sidewalk program of $25,000, and equipment requests of $25,000. The above correction will satisfy the reduction in shared revenue and allow for the hiring of 2 firefighters in January. It also provides time for a decision regarding the SAFER grant application. Continuing on, required reductions within the 2013 operating budget without a 3.8% levy increase. A 3.8% levy increase equals $431,000. Each 1% equates to $113,000. To achieve a 0% increase in levy, and with the adoption of the former recommendation, it is the opinion of the administration that some services will be eliminated or at least compromised. That will also equate to the elimination of positions in some departments. Without approving the above recommendation and the recommendation for a 3.8% levy increase, without similar corrections, the shortfall will be $610,000. Should the council wish not to affirm a levy increase or address the issues at hand to meet service levels, we respectfully ask for the council to give us their thoughts as to where the reductions can or should be or would be recommended to be made. Thank you for your consideration. And once again, at the 3.8% levy increase equates to 29 cents per thousand of assessed value on property, and for a home with an assessed value of $100,000, the net increases in taxes paid to the city for services will be $29. Thank you for allowing me to present that. Councilor Bender.
Yes, I believe that there are a number of people in the audience here that would like to speak to this issue. Maybe we should have them go first.
Members of the audience would like to address the topic of the budget?
And as people work their way to the podium, I just remind the group that we typically restrict comments to 3 minutes, and I'll try to, sorry.
Pardon me. Are there no members that wish to speak before the council?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended budget.
You've heard a motion and second to approve the amended budget. Councilor Bridge?
Well, I appreciate the presentations. It's difficult to think about raising taxes. I know that everybody in town feels that they're too high. I know mine are, and I know everybody else's are too. I'm not sure whether to call it unfortunate or not, but it isn't through the fault of anyone here that we're in this position. I think it comes from a place higher than us, and we would maintain our average annual over the last 10 years with the 3.8%, though 3.8% sounds like a pretty big increase right now. $29 doesn't sound that big, but 3.8% sounds pretty big. So I'm still kind of undecided at this point, but it would be with reluctance that I would be in favor of it.
Councilor Bender?
Yes. First of all, like everybody that has this packet, the City of Superior one, to go to page 31. And I've mentioned before that I got a D- in advanced algebra, but with a calculator I can figure some things out. And this is looking at the general summary, and the first one, general government, that amount of employees, that's correct. Now, the public safety, those don't add up. And I sent this in an email on the 8th of September. But 63 plus 37 is 100. And you add another 6, that total should be 106. It shouldn't be 69. And the grand total should be 188 and not 151.
If I could
And
address
I did this with a calculator.
If I could address that, and I thank you for pointing that out, Councilor Bender, because I did get your email with that correction, and as you remember, we had an awful lot of emails going back and forth.
Yes,
so
we did.
I neglected to get that changed. I apologize.
Okay, well, then I have a few other comments about this, now that we've made the correction in the amount of employees. I've spoken to many, many people. Some people who are here in the audience tonight who said that they were going to speak, but evidently have chosen not to. But there are lots of economic factors that really have to come into play when we think about a 3.8% property tax increase. The first one that I would bring up is that that's only one of 4. Now we have to add into that, how much is the county going to go up? Rumor I heard is about 2%. How much is the school district going to go up? rumor I heard is about 2.7%. WITC, I haven't really heard anything about that. But so that this is only, 3.8 is only one slice of the pie as far as what property taxes are going to be. Just some of the other economic factors, which some of which Councillor Olson pointed out, some of which I'm sure Councillor Bridge would agree on, but that foreclosures, there are lots and lots of foreclosures in the city. On the one block that I live on, there are 2 houses that have been foreclosed upon, and they are standing vacant. Also, lots of rentals standing vacant. I read every Monday at Northern Lights Elementary, and in the school district, 60% or more of the students are on free or reduced lunch. I know Kurt Soderberg is going to make a presentation later on needs for ESD, increases there. And some people in the 3rd District, which I represent, have told me they need to sell their houses. They've got just beautiful houses. They need to sell them because they can't afford the taxes. These are very difficult economic times. Now, what I did was I went through, and you can see my chicken scratching here, I went through every line many, many times, not just on here, but also on the Excel spreadsheet that we were sent earlier, a couple weeks ago. And I went through and I figured how much it would cost, or how much it would affect if we had a 3% pretty much across the board reduction for departments, a 2% pretty much across the board reduction for departments, and a 1%. And a 1% would be about $200,000 in savings. A 2% would be, and I'm rounding these numbers up, would be about $400,000, and the 3% would be about the figure named there, the $600,000. And if we were to say, just take a look at a $27 million budget, 2% of that, if we were to have a 2% across the board cut, that would be $543,000. So those are just some figures that I came up with, and I think I know it's very difficult times, and I know that everybody in the city administration has worked really hard on keeping the budget as bare bones as it possibly can be, and I thank them for that. And I've also worked in the public sector where we've been told we don't have any more money, you need to cut, and where the cut's going to come from, who has to find them? The employees need to do so. So I think 3.8%, when we couple with that, probably another 5, 6, 7% is way too much.
Councilor McKenzie.
Yeah, I understand where Councilor Bender is coming from, and these are tough situations and tough decisions. In this business, we meet a lot of people, we talk to a lot of people, whether, they see you on the street, they call you on the phone, you're going campaigning and you're going door to door. And, the biggest thing that they talk about are taxes. And it's what I got, was that they really believe that taxes are already too high. I think the frustration comes because they feel that whenever there is a shortfall, I think the quickest thing to do is to put the burden on the shoulders of the taxpayers, and I don't just say taxpayers. I mean the property owner taxpayers, and I'm also talking about the business owners as well. Landlords are another one where they have many buildings. And, it's not just $29 for, $100,000 house. It's many buildings, and multiplied times all of that. So I know making cuts are tough. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. I didn't do so well in math either, Warren, or, but I can make, some assumptions, and I can add 2 and 2 or make some subtractions. But again, I think the realtors, I don't think, like this idea of the taxes going up. I think that they said that that's not going to help the market too well. Chamber of Commerce, I don't believe, thinks that this is a time to be doing a tax increase. And again, I think the tax-paying property owners and the business owners and the landlords are just tired of carrying the largest burden with all of this. And so I don't see being able to, at least not now, voting for any kind of a levy increase on property taxes. We need to look at other things. I think that there are places that we can trim, and I'm not talking about jobs either. I'm the first person who doesn't want people to lose their jobs. So, thank you.
Councilor Bridge.
Not another thought, and just kind of thinking about something that Councilor Bender had to say at the last Finance Committee meeting. We did talk about what the other taxing entities would do in terms of raising their levies. And if Councilor Bender's numbers are right in that that's only 3 of the, I think, 5 entities that would tax, we'd be looking at a 2.8% average. And I'm looking, based on my valuation, of a $336 annual increase based on that number. And I certainly don't like it any more than anybody else does. That makes it really tough to approve any kind of increase.
Any further discussion? Councilman Herrick.
Yeah, I'd still like to see what the exact numbers are as far as the other entities, like what Warren mentioned. I think all that's going to take into place, but at the same time, it's one of those catch-22 things. I mean, do we end up in a deficit and then have to fight our way out of that for the next few years, maybe a dozen years or so? Yeah, so it's definitely mixed emotions, and it's whether or not, I mean, I had the opposite, situation where somebody came up to me and I mentioned to them that we may have to raise a levy, and they says, well, as long as you don't cut services, we're fine with that. So you even get it from both sides. People say, I don't mind as long as you don't cut services. So yeah, it's definitely not an easy decision, or it's very difficult to think about it. But like Warren said too, we've got other things coming up. We've got stormwater, we've got wastewater. I don't see stormwater, but definitely wastewater and we'll see at our next meeting where there was a study down at the wastewater plant and about things that they see have to be done, and it's not good. So there definitely are mixed emotions out there.
Mayor?
Director Vito?
Just for clarification, there have been some comments on the levy, and I've heard this a couple of times now. Councilor Bridge, you got it right when you mentioned that it's the average. It's not, you don't take a 3.8% city and add a 2.7% county and add a 2 whatever school and end up with a 8% increase in your tax rate. It's the average of what each of those jurisdictions contributes to the tax bill that goes out in December. And so, Councilor Bridge, you were correct when you said the numbers that we have so far are probably closer to the 3% range overall for the jurisdictions. And Councilor Herrick, you mentioned perhaps wanting to wait for the other jurisdictions to decide what their levies are going to be, and I would just caution you against that, because that may not happen for another month. And what we have before us today is that I did send an email out to all councilors. You don't have to approve this budget tonight, but if you don't do it tonight, I would highly recommend that we schedule another council meeting the last week of September, because if we wait until October 2nd, we won't make our statutorily required number of days to adopt a budget and then wait for the public hearing. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understands that.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. I know I have trouble justifying this too. I think about things like when we had our neighborhood meeting down there, the lady that came and she was having trouble with her sewer line being broken, and she was just doing everything she could to figure out how to scrape up the money to get her sewer line fixed. And then I think about all of the old folks, me included, that, haven't had a raise in Social Security, and there's a lot of people that are living right on the line, how do I tell them, well, we got to raise your taxes. And I'm not sure that we've done everything that we can in the city. And a suggestion that I have is that I see our garbage trucks, they go up the alley and pick up on one side, and then they come back down the alley and pick up on the other side. And my question is why can't we put all our garbage cans on one side? That would save them a lot of extra trips up and down the alleys. Save on gas, save on wear and tear on the trucks. And, how many pickup trucks do we have? Do all the supervisors need a pickup truck? I'm not sure. Maybe we could have a motor pool and they could draw a truck from the pool when they need it, or share trucks or something like that. So I think we got a few things that we can look at, and I'd like to hear about how we can go about saving a little more money. Thank you.
Chief?
I trust each of you saw the document that I emailed to you. I was asked to prepare a document to address how our department could save some money on the 2013 budget. I was told that any budget shortfalls that our department would have to respond for 50% of the shortfall that might occur. So I prepared a document based on that. And just to kind of re-stress what I had there are three areas that we have some control on. One is overtime. And overtime happens as crimes occur, as officers use vacation, as officers are off light duty or injured or ill. We have little ability to control that. When crimes occur, it is our department's role to respond, and respond with sufficient vigor to meet the need to do the investigation on serious crimes. Another area, part of overtime we can control is training. And in the second half of 2012, any request for training that came across my desk that wasn't required to maintain certifications or that was grant funded, my pat answer was no, we're not doing it. That comes at an expense. If you continue that, you lose a level of expertise in your department. Law enforcement is something that has a lot of various technical skills, legal skills. We train people to be instructors so we can deliver training to our officers in an efficient manner. And we need to continue to do that. So saying no through 2013, well, I can say no more frequently than I might have under a more plentiful budget. Saying no to every request comes at a cost, and I think is not in the best interest of our department or this community. We have some money budgeted for squad cars, and we didn't buy any squad cars in 2012, at least not marked units. We didn't buy any in 2011. I believe the latest ones we got came in early in the spring of 2010. That's resulted in our fleet. We were able to do that because our fleet was in pretty good shape. That's not true anymore. They're aged. There's 7 cars that'll have over 100,000 city miles at the end of this year. Frequently, we'll have 4 or 5 cars in for maintenance on a day. Today I talked to a sergeant, and they said they had to ask somebody to ride the motorcycle because we don't have a car for you, because the cars are getting old. And while sometimes you look and say there's a lot of them are at the garage increasingly frequently, and that will only get worse if we don't start replacing some of the oldest ones. The last area that we can control money is in staffing. And the vast majority of our budget is staffing and the benefits for those staff. And if we incur half of a budget shortfall, which I understand right now stands with the adjustments the mayor made today of about $440,000 or $430,000, I can't address that through overtime. I can't address that through not buying squad cars, and I think it would be ill-advised
to do much on the way of squad cars. The other move would be jobs. We've already made some adjustments in 2012. We shed 3 positions through attrition. Shedding more positions would result in layoffs of employees that we recently hired and have trained, officers who have given up jobs where they were working to take jobs with us, and would cause us to incur additional overtime to meet our minimum staffing levels. Or if we shake up our minimum staffing levels, a reduction in service is offered. Or we could pull in officers from a drug task force, from our school liaison positions, from our liaison to the housing authority to restaff our patrol division, which shedding officers would result in being understaffed. And I don't think that's advisable in a time where we see increased heroin use, increased drug crime, and an effort to increase our community policing. So reeling in our liaison officers to housing and the schools, pulling in our task force officers may be made necessary if we're forced to lay people off, but I don't think it's a benefit to our core mission of providing police services in the changing environment that we police. Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to say a few words. Looking at the spreadsheet from 2008 to the current period of time, you're looking at, from 2008, an increase in the budget of less than $400,000. And I have to say that the city, the council, the administration over that period of time has truly been very frugal with regard to providing the necessary funds to operate. Where it hasn't been frugal is not doing any infrastructure development, replacement of necessary items, structural and whatnot. And just like a home, if you don't make the minimum required maintenance over every year period of time, you have a big bill on your hands at some point in time. I believe that that's where we're heading to a very rapid degree. I also believe that in talking to counterparts across the state and other states, their answer has been eliminating services and laying off people. That's not the direction this administration wants to go. And I know that you as a council will not allow us to go that way, but then you have to take another look at how we operate. Every single department, bar none, is at a bare bone minimum. Most departments in the administration portion of our operations have 2 people. 2 people. I'm talking about Mary Morgan, I'm talking about Cammie, I'm talking about Brad, I'm talking about Gene has several people. I have one person, and so does the city attorney. The city clerk's office is down to a bare minimum. We had to hire part-time just to get through the elections this crazy year. So I only say that because if we're looking at $600,000, you need to fully understand it's bodies. It's bodies, it's services, reduced services. And what I'm asking, 2 questions, is what I would appreciate is for the council, if this is the feeling and the decision you want to make and the way you want to go, I believe it's incumbent upon the council to make some recommendations as to reductions. It's also, the second question is, when we bring back the reductions and we bring back bodies, if you say no, I don't know where we're going to go. I have to compliment the administration, every office. We have worked very hard, very diligently, long hours, many meetings, a few arguments, trying to bring a budget to you that would be acceptable without laying people off, that would be acceptable to continue the service levels that we have and continue and hopefully will have. Without that understanding, it is going to be services and it's going to be bodies. So that's my take on it. I'll ask the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Please call the roll.
Counselor Olson?
No.
Counselor Bridge?
No.
Counselor Bender?
No.
Counselor Stenberg? Counselor McDonald? Counselor Joyle?
No.
Counselor Fensland?
Yes.
Counselor Herrick?
Yes.
Counselor McKenzie?
No.
Counselor Brown?
No.
It's 4 yes, 6 no.
Motion fails for want of majority. I'll be calling for a meeting with the leadership of the council to assist us in bringing back recommendations of unanimity to the council.
Item 7.2, Public Works Director Getzman is recommending to award the bid for the purchase of 2 new hot water pressure washers to McKenzie Supply and Equipment for $29,000.
What is the pleasure? You've heard the motion, a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying
Bruce.
Aye.
Councilor McKenzie.
I just wanted to say that this Mackenzie is not me, and it's and not even brothers from another mother. So,
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
7.3, Public Works Director Getzman is recommending to award the consultant services agreement for grant and technical services consulting to Oxner LLC for $75 per hour for as-needed services.
What is the pleasure? You've heard the motion, a second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
I'm
Bruce,
sorry.
I wanted to ask a question, and I'm going to ask the same question of 7.4 as I asked of 7.3. Any idea how many hours these consultants are going to be employed?
Counselor, not exactly at this point. We intend to get a general contract in place with them like we do with the other consultants we have available to us. And as we have projects that come up, we would be paying for services out of a project-specific budget, and we would have something come back at that time. If it's over $25,000, we'd bring it back. If it's a small contract, we would identify at that point if it's hours of service that we need.
Will that be the same for 7.4 also?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay,
These are basically
then I
as
won't
needed.
ask it at that one.
President Herrick?
Yeah, I just have another question in relation to that. I guess I understand the first part of that, but the second part of it, where you went into some of the other, I'm trying to find it here real quick, and some of the other duties that they may be able to do, I guess I'm having trouble in relation to that. Here we go, I'll get right here. Like there's a lot of assisting that you may need, but couldn't that be done within house rather than than using these consultants?
At times it is definitely done with in-house or our staff people. Typically you find a lot of these kinds of projects and work done by engineering technicians. There are times though we don't have people with the right knowledge. It's not in our wheelhouse. There might be things like traffic signals or grant opportunities that we don't have somebody familiar with those funding sources, that we need somebody to help us fill out applications and go after the funding or get a plan done.
Okay, so are these people going to be, I guess, are they going to be able to find their job also to find possible grants is that their job too, to possibly find grants for a lot of the projects, or?
On the first one, which you're considering right now, Todd Oshner actually has worked for the city in the past as an employee of SEH and has done that exact thing. Both these gentlemen have gone away from SEH and are out on their own doing different things, and it was our intention to try to, I guess, bring them back as we need. They have extremely good familiarity with the city and how we work and the kinds of projects we do, and we thought that their services might be useful to us at some point down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
Item 7.4, Public Works Director Getzman is recommending to award the consultant services agreement for general engineering consulting services to Wyatt LLC, $125 per hour for as-needed services.
What is the pleasure? Heard the motion, a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
You ain't looking through the whole
I'm
thing.
sorry, I should be looking over their way.
You got to do 360, Bruce.
I apologize.
Yeah, Jeff, what types of projects would these people most be helpful with?
I would say a lot of it is, there might be feasibility studies, like if we're trying to decide on a particular street, if we should rebuild it, if we can add storm sewer, there's things like that. Some cost estimating, some grant writing. Scott Wyant is very good at field construction. He's helped mentor some of our engineering staff who have just come on board and may not have a breadth of experience. He's stopped on projects. He might spend an hour or two here and there to walk them through how to construct something or how to deal with a contractor. Kind of filling in areas like that. You know.
How many of our people would he be working with, or what people would that be that they would be working with?
Yeah, I mean, he could be helping somebody in parks on getting a permit for a trail culvert, or it could be in the street department, or it could be at the wastewater plant, the stormwater utility, any of our engineering technicians. Yeah.
And at what point would this education allow them to not have to have that expertise and that help at a later point?
Yeah, it doesn't take a lot of time to do that. We've had occasions where there's a plan that if there's a particular project nobody here has ever produced a plan for, he has helped us out occasionally on an hourly basis to walk them through the particulars of something like that. So this is something, it's hard to say, what project we'll use them on, but we'd like to have them in our wheelhouse.
Yeah. Okay, all right, thanks.
What is the pleasure?
Do you have a motion in a second?
No motion?
We do.
There is a motion.
Yep. In a second.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Item 7.5, Public Works Director Getzman is providing information to the council to consider extending free landfill drop-off days to Douglas County residents.
Dr. Getzman?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just kind of a quick summary here. This is something that the county has asked us about on several occasions. I think Mayor Hagan has been asked repeatedly over time during different negotiations interface with the county about whether we'd be open to allowing county residents outside of the city limits to take part in the free landfill drop-off days that we host. And I did try to put some typical costs in that memo, and hopefully you saw that. Obviously, there are some foregone or lost revenues there if the more items we take in on a free day like that, but we wanted to put this in front of the council for a decision on what your pleasure was.
Okay. Councilor Bridge. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wondered what that was about. I mean, I hadn't actually read your notes here yet, but I knew we extended free drop-off for flood victims in the city, but I didn't, I mean, this is, other than would we have 1 or 2 days a year that people could drop things off, and we're paying the tipping fees. So we're providing free garbage service to a lot of people too in town, which I think amounts to a lot of money, and which is why I think we need to go back and have another meeting this month on the budget. But I don't want to nickel and dime things, but the free garbage service, might not be a lot of money, but it's money. And the free garbage service, at the last Finance Committee meeting, we had discussion on that, could be $30,000 or $40,000 in the course of a year, maybe a little bit more than that. And these are the kind of things we need to go back and take a look at. So I have a hard time telling people no, they can't drop stuff off, but geez, it costs us, what, $20 a ton to pay the state to let them do this?
Yeah, we're at $13 a ton for straight municipal waste, right?
We got to pay for it.
Councilor McKenzie.
Well, how many free drop-off days do we have now?
Typically, we host 2 in the spring and 2 in the fall, so 4.
And so your proposal is to have how many more days?
This proposal wouldn't be to add any days. This would strictly be to add to allow the use of those same 4 days by residents outside of the city limits. So Douglas County residents outside of Superior could attend those 4 free days and drop off items.
People from Duluth, too?
No, Wisconsin. Just Douglas County.
Because we're taking Duluth's garbage, too, you know. We're already doing
Not
that.
for free.
Director Gessman, does the staff at the landfill look at IDs to make sure they're from Superior or Douglas County?
Yeah, they typically do check, yeah.
President Harris?
Yeah, just on the way this is written, it says providing information for the council to consider extending free landfill drop-off days to the Douglas County residents. So it doesn't sound like you want our approval to actually do that, but that you're providing information for us to consider that. So I guess the way it's written, I mean, what actually are you looking for? Don't mean to be technical, but just,
Yeah, good catch. In this case, it would be your approval. If we're going to do this, I would like the council to make a recommendation to approve that we allow those residents to take part in our free landfill days. Yep. So this is the basis on which you would make that decision.
We have a motion on the floor to approve. We just need a second.
There is a motion that requires a second. Councilor Finsland.
I was just wondering how we determine whether they're Douglas County residents or Bayfield County residents or Washburn County residents, or do we limit the size of the container coming into a pickup truck, or can it be a great big garbage truck coming in from Ashland or Bayfield? How are we going to recognize those people? And how do you determine where they come from? We have city residents that might have a Minnesota plate on their car. Does that get questioned when they come to the landfill? How do we decide who's a county resident of Douglas County, and how do we distinguish them from the city residents actually when they come in with their car? Does everybody give their address when they come in and make a deposit at the landfill?
Yeah, I believe right now they're showing an ID. They're checking IDs when they come in.
Mayor, could I weigh in?
Sure. Councilor?
I'm one of those people that has a Minnesota license plate on, and I live in South Superior, but I think the easiest way, if we're going to do it that way, would be to post the zip codes out at the landfill, and then when somebody has a load, you look at their ID and see what their zip code is, and it would be Douglas County.
Councilor Finsland.
A lot of the rural properties are still listed as Superior, even as far out as Amnicon Lake. The address on your mail and your zip code is still exactly the same as Superior's. A good part of the county is listed with 54880.
Is it Councilor McKenzie?
Yeah, just one other concern, Jeff. I guess because of the longevity or the lack of space and time that we have for the landfill, we've got 5 years left, for this last cell. So, wouldn't we be filling it up faster doing it that way?
I don't know if you'd be filling it up any faster ultimately. I mean, a lot of this debris and trash is probably coming to us anyway. I'm guessing most of it is. If it's coming to a landfill, we're the closest thing.
So then we wouldn't have to extend it then.
This is strictly the wish of the county, the council. If you'd like to allow residents outside of the city to take part in our free days, that's the question, I guess.
There's a motion on the floor in want of a second.
Well, the motion would be to approve extending free landfill days, drop-off days to Douglas County residents.
Hearing no second, the item's pulled.
Is that what you said?
Item 9.1, Councilor Olson is requesting council authority to allow the Superior Fire Department with grant assistance from FEMA to purchase 3 base station radios, one dual-head radio from Duluth Superior Communications in the amount of $9,545.28, and 35 portable radios from Two-Way Communications in the negotiated amount of $75,718.75. This price represents a reduction in costs that were previously quoted by the manufacturer and rejected by the council.
Motion to approve.
Heard a motion and second to approve. Discussion.
If I could, please.
Counselor?
I believe Nancy Brown is in the audience there, and I would ask her to come to the podium. I did some emailing with her today, and she is probably better prepared to explain the situation that we have here. We did meet with council leadership, Frog, Nancy, and myself on this issue, and I've had extensive discussion with Fire Chief Briggshead on the need for these rather than the want for these. So if Nancy is available there, I would appreciate her discussion on this, please.
She's front and center.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Olson, I'm not exactly sure what you wanted me to review, but I'm sure that all of you recall that we've discussed this in the past and that there was some concern about the necessity for the radio and some of the accessories that were with the radio. Just to remind you a little bit, we did submit this for a public RFP back in April. Proposals were opened in May, and we received 2 responses. There was a series of criteria that was set out in those RFPs, one of which was to meet the P25 requirements from the state of Wisconsin for communications equipment. Of the 2 bids, one bid did meet the qualifications, and that was the bid from TWC, which is the motion that Councilor Olson has put before you. I'm not sure, Councilor Olson, if you want other information?
Any other questions, Counselor?
No, I'm having a hard time hearing you folks, so I'm sure Nancy did just fine.
Thank you.
Counselor McKenzie.
Yeah, Chief, I guess I got a couple of things for you, and as you know, we support the fire department, and we want good equipment for everyone. This heartbeat thing, and we've talked about this a lot and kind of beat this to death, but the heartbeat feature, and you and I think have talked about this, and the radios would still be WISCOM compliant without heartbeat. Is that correct?
That's correct. The FireSafe software package is much more than just that heartbeat. Mm-hmm. There are a lot more things that are involved with that package, the out-of-range indicators, the locks, the keyboard locks, the actual knob locks that lock the knobs so that the people can't get onto the wrong channel just by brushing their arm across the radio and turning the knob with their arm. There's evacuation tones along with that FireSafe software also. In looking at these radios, and I did some research on the FEMA website, and they talk about many different radio systems, different types of systems, and when recommending portable radios, they recommend a top-tier radio for anybody who's entering an IDLH atmosphere, which our firefighters do every time they go into a building. They're in an IDLH atmosphere, and they should have the top-tier radios.
May I add something else to that? One of the things that was really key to these radios was the ability to scan talk groups. Once they get out in the field, there are certain groups that are created among the responders, and that is one of the key items that set this radio in compliance that the other radio wasn't.
As far as the process, Nancy, maybe I'll direct this at you. There was talk about the WISCA state bid process. Would that have been a better option than to go through this grant approval system, or
I would have to look at the WISCA state grant process and see what exactly they were looking for. These criteria were developed with the specific needs of SFD in mind. You know, our department has some unique things in the city with the grain elevators, which are not, you know, volatile in the least, and a refinery, and they know that they need specific safety features to meet unusual circumstances that many other departments don't have.
Okay. And Dan, can you hear me?
Yep.
Dan? Yeah, Dan, you and I have been on these committees, and we've talked about this in those committees and at different levels. And I really appreciate what you're trying to do here. This is, again, this thing has been stretched out for a long time. The only problem that I have is that, it doesn't change the non-competitive nature of the RFP, where we ended up with one product, one vendor. What we were left with then was this negotiation that's going on, where they're bringing the price down after the fact, and it tells me that it's a good thing we didn't take their first offer. But in my opinion, I still think this, the 75. We're talking about budgets here now, and so $75,000 is a lot for these radios. It seems astronomical to me, and I understand grant, I understand the hazmat, but at the end of the day, both of those things are still taxpayers' money, and that's all I got.
President Herrick.
Yeah, I just want to, I see there's a couple firefighters in the audience. If any of them want to come up and talk to the importance of this, I'd greatly appreciate it.
President Lesage.
Tom Lesage, 813 North 22nd, if that's how I preface it. First of all, I apologize for my appearance. I just came out from a long day underwater all day. I didn't have time to get cleaned up. I think probably the most appropriate thing here is I'm just going to reread the email that I did send out to the City Council. Councilors, I plan on attending the City Council meeting next week and encourage you to vote in favor of Chief Rigsted's radio proposal. I'm aware that some of you have concerns ranging from the process that was used to the actual radio features and finally the lack of a local vendor. I'm unable to comment on the process that was followed. This is due to the fact that purchasing for the city is outside the scope of my responsibility. What I will comment is both the local purchasing theory and the radio features. First off, being born and raised in this community, I do realize the importance of supporting local businesses. My family owned and operated a local family business starting in 1897, and you'll notice my name is still on that building. Also, as a local union president, I recognize local support as being fundamental to our community's success. Unfortunately, in this case, as I understand it, the local vendor was unable to provide a product with the same features for a similar price. This is unfortunate. However, in my opinion, the functions of the functions and usability of the radio outweigh the local vendor considerations. As the chief probably pointed out, and if I'm beating a dead horse, my apologies. One important feature of this radio, in simplest terms, is that the radios are able to indicate if you're in range with the other radios. This becomes very important and critical when orders are passed either down from the battalion chiefs or passed up from firefighters in the building. Another important feature of this radio is ability to lock it. What this will do is prevent accidental changes from either the channel or the volume settings. As a fair amount of our work is quite literally crawling around on the floor, it is easy to consider the possibility of these accidents happening. They have in the past, I can say. Hopefully, my opinion is hopefully the opinion I've provided will help you in your decision making. And ended that with, please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Bender?
Yes, I would ask the fire chief if you could make a comment on the price of the Motorola radio that would be similar in concept to this one. What would be the price difference between this and the $2,200 that the
Well, Motorola has several radios that fall into the same quality standard as these EFJ radios. The price on those, you're looking at anywhere from, if you get up into the Apex 6000s, you're looking at over $4,000 per radio. And that is the one that they are recommending now for firefighters, that Motorola recommends. The funding for this came about through a port security grant from FEMA. It's a 2009 grant. This grant period ends November 30th. So we have to have whatever we're doing purchased and paid for and turned into the to the grant people by November 30th. If we fail to meet that date, we'll be in default on the grant. Defaulting on a grant really puts us in a bad position for any further grants, because when we apply for these grants, they want to know what grants we've had before and whether they were successfully completed or not. The matching money, we're paying a 20% match on that, and that money is coming from our hazmat fund. The Superior Fire Department has a contract with the state of Wisconsin to provide hazmat services for our 8-county region. That money can only be used for things for hazmat. None of that money comes out of the city budget. The radios, the hazmat team will be using these radios also, so that's an appropriate use of that hazmat money. And we have quite a balance in that hazmat account.
Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries.
Item 9.2, Councilor Bender, on behalf of Scott Johnson and the Northwoods Music Festival, is requesting to reserve Barker's Island for their festivals in 2013 and 2014.
Heard the motion, second to approve. Discussion. Councilor Bender?
I just wanted to add in, even though it is shown further on in the document that goes with this agenda item, that the 2013 dates would be July 19 and 20, and the 2014 dates would be July 18 through 19.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 9.3, Councilor Bridge is providing an introduction and overview of the Northwest Regional Planning Commission's draft Wisconsin Point Area Management Plan.
Councilor Bridge.
Well, I'm not so much providing an introduction to much of anything but the gentleman who's going to provide the introduction. This started just briefly, we started this at Superior Days a few years ago. Got then Governor Jim Doyle up here and the Secretary of the DNR to see Wisconsin Point and the lake. And they were impressed enough to send more people. Actually, we had Bill Smith, the DNR's landman, up here before that to spend some time out at the point. And it resulted in a grant of approximately $50,000 from Wisconsin Coastal Management and the DNR to hire the Northwest Regional Planning Commission to conduct a study and bring all the parties together, the Fond du Lac Band, the state, the county, and the university. I think I got everybody there. To have a discussion on how to manage that area. And Jason Lauman is here with us tonight, and he's going to tell us about that.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Bridge. You just saved me a slide. All right. My name is Jason Lauman. I'm a senior planner with the Northwest Regional Planning Commission in Spooner. And tonight I'm going to give you a fairly brief overview of the Wisconsin Point Area Management Plan. I've got about a dozen slides, and we'll take a little time for questions afterwards. But I really want to give you an idea of the plan content, the process that was used to develop it, and hopefully hit on anything that you may have wondered about in this year-long process in a PowerPoint presentation. Now, hopefully the computer isn't going to do something funky with that. Is that a natural reaction to...
I don't know. I can just try closing it.
All right, let's try it, see what happens. Okay, before I get started, I just want to mention one thing. The Wisconsin Point Area Management Plan is more than just Wisconsin Point proper. It's more than just that 229-acre property that's addressed in your master park plan. We're talking about almost 3,000 acres of property out here under diverse forms of ownership and management as it is today. Sorry, 2,300 acres. Okay, the purpose and intent behind this thing, first and foremost, were to identify what was out there, the resources that were present. And it was a big job. There's a lot of information at a lot of different sources, so this document really pulls all that information together in one point, consolidates it. The second idea here was to develop a long-range vision and management framework for that property, for that 2,300-acre property. In the past, there have been efforts to sort of identify a vision or come to some conclusion as to what the issues are, but it's never been formalized in a manner like this. The third intent here was to propose a range of alternatives that address some of the management opportunities. Again, with a diverse management situation, ownership situation out there in the point, all these stakeholders could come together, and they did in this process, to develop some options that the public and the elected officials could consider in terms of long-range management. And the last piece here was to identify a preferred management approach and then a framework for implementing that approach. Who developed the plan? Well, here's where Councilor Bridge saved me a slide. We've already went through those entities. I think the one that needs to be mentioned here that perhaps wasn't was the Research Reserve. And again, it was funded by Coastal Management and DNR, and my organization, Northwest Regional Planning, was hired as a facilitator because we were really a non-biased entity. Stakeholder input. During this year-long process, there were 2 public open houses held at the Superior Public Library, first in August of 2011, and the last one just this past spring. Notice was also sent to a key stakeholder group, which is about 80 individuals, organizations, agencies that have a stake in the long-range management of the point. About 75 folks attended both meetings, and we received written and oral comment from the public. Here is the area I was talking about. This is the WPMA, Wisconsin Point Management Area. It does include the point proper, but also a large tract of land to the south and then to the east. The plan itself. Again, the key idea here is identifying the resources and the issues. Our planning process involved an issues identification process, both internal and external. The committee identified issues, the public identified issues. Surprisingly, there was really no difference between those. And if we look back at past efforts, the issues that existed out there 10 years ago are the same ones that exist out there today, in large part. Values, vision, goals, and objectives. If you take a look at the management plan, you'll see that a good portion of the document is devoted to establishing this framework through a formal process. The issues were identified, values were identified, a vision was established, and goals and objectives were formulated to carry that vision forward. The management alternatives. Taking that long-range vision and kind of putting it into practical application is sometimes difficult. In formulating these management approaches, the committee, the steering committee, looked at really 4 or 5, I guess 4 directions that they could take management of Wisconsin Point. The first was do nothing, kind of continue to do things the way that it's been done in the past. A strict recreation-based approach, a conservation, preservation-based approach, and an educational, cultural enhancement-based approach. In each one of these, with the exception of the status quo, which is kind of a mesh of everything, the other 3 are throwing all your eggs into one basket, basically not considering any real aspect of any of the other alternatives. Going into this, I think everybody on the committee had a feeling that none of them were probably going to fly. But it was probably going to be a mesh of all of those, taking what worked, what the public liked and disliked, throwing out what they disliked, and incorporating what they liked into that preferred management approach. So that preferred management option, again, encompassing the themes of those 4 options that were out there. This is based on public preferences, and it has a broad set of area-wide recommendations and management zone recommendations. If you take a look at the plan, you'll see there's a map towards the back. This is called the management zones. The concept that was used to implement the Wisconsin Point Management Plan, or to at least establish a framework, or to divide Wisconsin Point Management Area, and you can't really tell on there, the colors are kind of difficult to read, but break the area out into 5 separate management zones, and I'll go through those quickly here. Okay, taking a look at the base map, this is the entire property. We take a look at Zone E. Zone E is that southern portion of the management area and encompasses the largest, in terms of land acreage, area of any of the management zones. The emphasis in here is pretty clear. Low impact outdoor recreation. There are a number of restrictions placed on these properties, predominantly through restrictive covenants, but there are also restrictions on what you can do out there because of the environmental conditions. Zone D, this is the Schaefer's Beach area extending eastward over to the mouth of Dutchman's Creek and the university property. The management focus here is piping plover habitat management, research, environmental study, with also continued beach use. So again, the emphasis isn't shutting it down. There's some possibilities that portions of Zone D may need to be closed at certain times of the year to protect piping plover habitat and the activities associated with the management of that species. Zone C, the closed landfill site. The emphasis on this area is pretty narrow here. It is low impact recreation compatible with the management of the closed landfill site. Now, in terms of restrictions, this Zone C probably has more restrictions than any of the areas, the management zones in the WPMA. But simply because of the closure restrictions placed on the property by DNR and the environmental conditions that exist out there today. So again, low impact management, recreation management. Zone B, this is the core of Wisconsin Point, an area of heavy public use. The emphasis here is to maintain that existing level of public use and the recreational opportunities that are available. Put some emphasis on invasive species control and noxious weeds. There are some poison ivy issues out there. And to protect the cultural resources that are present. And I'm going to touch on that cultural resources piece here in just a moment. And Zone A, this is the developed portion of Wisconsin Point. This is the end area where the lighthouse is located and the existing buildings are today. This is also an area that's in transition. With a pending land transfer from the federal government to the Fond du Lac Band, raises some questions about what the future use for the property will be. And the Fond du Lac Band did participate as a committee member on the steering committee and was involved in the discussion. You'll see that in Zone A, there is a hatch, little hatch mark, that extends partway down into Zone B. This is a cultural resource overlay district, zone, if you will. And there is special emphasis within that zone to identify cultural resources that are present and to implement mechanisms to protect them. Now, there's ongoing work right now on the point on behalf of the State Historic Preservation Office to catalog those resources. So unfortunately, we didn't have a complete list, an exhaustive list of all of the resources out there to date, but it is in process. And as that information is received, this plan can incorporate that, and then any improvements that are done in the future would be focused on protecting those cultural and historic resources. Okay, the plan itself will be on file in the city clerk's office for a period of 60 days. It's available today on the city's webpage and also on the project webpage at nwrpc.com. The public can review the document and provide comments anytime during that period. After the 60-day period is up, then hopefully the city will take action to sort of formally ratify the plan.
I'm sorry, Jason, it's 30 days.
Oh, it's 30 days.
It's
okay.
from now until October 16th. That's in the range of 30 days.
Okay, 30 days. All right. That is my quick synopsis of the Wisconsin Point Area Management Plan. And are there any questions?
Just a big thank you. I hope people will take the time to look at this. I read it. There's a lot more there than I ever anticipated, and I was at all the meetings. Jason did an incredible job, and there's a lot of great information here.
I want to thank Northwest Regional Planning and Councilor Bridge for his leadership in this, and Administrator Morgan for her guidance and continued commitment to the point, and the others that participated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Herrick had a item under business by Councilor.
Terry, due to the length of this meeting, I'll do that in October.
Oh,
Okay?
you will? Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay, thanks.
Item 10.1, resolution introduced by the Parks and Recreation Division, setting a public hearing October 16th at 6:30 PM in the boardroom for the draft Wisconsin Point Area Management Plan.
For the motion, second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
Item 10.2 is a preliminary resolution introduced by the Public Works Department, setting a public hearing October 2nd, declaring the intent to exercise special assessment powers under Wisconsin statutes to blacktop the following alleys between Cumming and Baxter Avenues and North 13th and 14th Streets, 12th and 13th Avenues East and East 6th and East 5th and East 6th Streets, North 21st Street East, and Belknap and 2nd Avenue East and East 3rd and East 4th Streets.
What is the pleasure? You've heard the motion, second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 11.1 is an ordinance introduced by the Public Works Department, amending the city code, the traffic code, disabled parking zones by removing 2008 Baxter Avenue.
Heard the motion, multiple seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? We stand adjourned.
You take 5. Maybe the whole.
We'll
We have 9 present, and Councilor Olson is excused. Helps if I turn that on. Item number 1, Public Works Director Getzman is requesting discussion on the report on the organizational effectiveness of Environmental Services Division, the City of Superior.
Jeff?
Good evening, councilors. As you're aware, over the past several months, we've been working on a review of the environmental services, both the wastewater and stormwater utilities. I'd like to introduce Kurt Soderberg and Jeff Thompson, who are here tonight. Those two gentlemen have been meeting with staff and reviewing our operations, reviewing budgetary issues, and have a summary that was sent to you last week ahead of the council meeting, and are here tonight to present those findings to you. And once that, I guess, Kurt, once you're done with slides, we'll probably have time for questions here at the end.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Getzman, my name is Kurt Soderberg. I am acting as a consultant for the city. I was approached back in March by a person who did consulting work with my previous employer and a person that I've known for many years, Mr. Jeff Thompson, whether I would be interested in assisting him and assisting the city in a review of the organizational effectiveness of the City of Superior Environmental Services Division. Tonight it's primarily going to be me, although Jeff is here, sitting in the back of the audience. The work that he did is primarily going to be useful when we get into specific work with the department heads and additional work within the ESD itself. So you've seen the report, and hopefully you've had a chance to review the report. I would like to go over some of the key findings and also to introduce you to at least some of the information you might be hearing later. Councilor Bender referred to the potential of more information on rate increases from ESD, and I think I can at least shed some information on that as we go along. My previous life, I was the executive director for the Western Lake Superior Sanitary District across the bay. I was the director there for 17 years. I'm not an engineer, but I've had a lot of experience in management, and I believe that's the reason that I was selected to do this work. And I hope to give you some results that you can rely upon as you go forward. Just some summary information. This really is a fundamentally sound organization. It's a good organization, dedicated staff. They've made significant progress, and they have an emphasis on the permits. And believe me, the permits are nothing to gloss over. These are state and federal permits, and the repercussions of not meeting those permits are very stringent. You've made progress on reducing your violations over the years. And frankly, the staff there has done a good job of keeping an aging facility operating, even though they haven't had the rate increases or sufficiently been able to justify the rate increases over the last several years. I find nothing there to indicate that there's out-of-control spending or anything that would say that there's treatment to a higher level than's necessary. They are doing what they need to do, and in some cases, just barely. There is a draft permit for your next 5-year cycle, and it appears to be relatively positive for you, but EPA has requested more time to review that, and they could throw some additional things into the mix. And again, I heard the discussion this evening about is there grant funding. I think that this utility has done an excellent job of securing grant funding when other organizations around have not been able to get grant funding, so I commend them for that. Despite that, it is an organization that has been organizationally challenged. I think it needs a new direction. And what we're saying, and this is a recommendation from both Jeff and myself, it's almost inconsistent, saying one thing and then another thing, but it really needs to be brought closer to other departments and be closer aligned with other city departments, other city services, and operate under the same sort of a structure as the other city departments. But at the same time, our strong recommendation is that it be a separate department, but again, with much stronger supervision by the council and the mayor. And ultimately, our recommendation is that you look toward a utility commission to supervise the operations of environmental services. but immediately to begin some stronger ties with the existing management there through summary reports, and I stress that, summary reports based upon goals and objectives that are set by the utility. Try to get some of you folks who are interested to tour the facilities, and perhaps engage a stronger advisory committee of public works staff, citizens, or city councilors. In the management area, a new organizational structure is needed immediately. I found the structure to be very bureaucratic. I called it muddled, and I haven't backed away from that. It's not a flat structure. It's overly bureaucratic. People need sufficient authority to do the job. Person who has job X should be able to do that job and just have the normal oversight, and there shouldn't be multiple layers of decision-making above that could counteract those sorts of things. I heard that from a number of people, from engineers who worked with you, customers, all sorts of folks, that it is, for as small organization as it is, it was overly bureaucratic. And then when you look at the structure, it is management and administrative heavy. The director job description needs to have a new job description. It specifically needs to have stronger authority and also to be held accountable for the things that need to get done. And you need to expect from that person what the goals are. Goals in terms of cost and meeting permits, goals in terms of employee activities, how many 100 feet of sewers are going to be televised during the year. These need to be specific, and they need to be a smaller number, not all-encompassing. You don't need to hear all of that, but you need to understand what's going on within that utility. This recommended structure that I have in here, it's a relatively simple 3-division structure with your director, with an operations and maintenance manager, a technical services manager, and an administrative. And underneath those would, under the operations and maintenance comes maintenance, operations, your collection system, the technical services, a whole group of technical sorts of work that would get done in engineering, planning, stormwater, the GIS and the mapping, regulatory, and then under administrative, budgeting and finance, billing, and information technology. Within the recommendations, and there are far more recommendations that I have in the 25-page report, there are opportunities for change and for ultimately lower costs down the road. Throughout our industry, the wastewater industry, the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, which was formerly AMSA, the Association of Metropolitan Sewerage Agencies, Superior has been a member of that organization, went around the country looking at ways to implement competitive practices in our industry. And this was largely to try to fend off the privatization efforts that were coming from the big water and wastewater firms. A lot of that has really gone away because the big money isn't there for these private operators to come in and do this. But at the same time, they advanced for us a number of principles: unattended operations, more automation, greater cross-training, predictive and preventive maintenance, ways to reduce energy. There are these practices that are available for any utility to try to implement. There is the opportunity then for these long-term cost savings, but in many cases, given the age of your facilities, you're really going to have an upfront investment as well. Preventive maintenance program. Your utility has been working on the implementation of this preventive maintenance program, Maximo. High-quality software. The implementation began in 2008. It's not yet done. It just needs to get done. It's a tremendous asset for the organization, but it needs to be implemented. One of my first questions was, when will it be fully implemented? And I was told perhaps 2014. That's just too long for any sort of a rollout of a new software package. I think also there needs to be a review of some of these long-term contracted services, particularly the one with Superior Testing Laboratories. This isn't saying anything bad about them, but there's been this ongoing contract for information technology services, permit assistance, and temporary labor that has not been reapproved in a long time. And there just needs to be a look at what services do you need from that company for the future. Some of them, I'm sure, will continue, but it's a time to look at that again. And then in the new permit, and I put nothing on the PowerPoint about some of the different jargon that's in there, the Capacity Management Operations and Maintenance, or CMOM program, or the CCAP program. You're going to have to do a lot of these things. The ESD is under this new permit. These are some substantial requirements, but if you tried to staff up internally for all of these, I think it is virtually impossible. I think you need to look at which ones can be handled by outside contractors who would come in with a level of expertise in Wisconsin or around the country and say, here's your program, now you need to implement it and report upon it. And then the other area in terms of employees is there's a lot of contracted labor that's used for some of the maintenance crafts. I think this one deserves a look now to see whether you would be better served by having your own employees rather than the continued use of certain contracted maintenance services. Budget and finance interface, again, no evidence that it's out of control, but I was really concerned that I did not see a lot of ongoing reporting on operations and on projects. That really comes to the recommendation of having a staff person from finance, a new position assigned to the ESD and paid for by the ESD. There's a real need. There's a lot of money that's spent in this budget, and there's a need for a linkage there to understand what's going on. Also, at the same time, an understanding of some of these mutual needs on cost trends, on revenues. And frankly, I heard a lot about the ESD looking out 20 years and 25 years, and frankly, the money is better spent in this organization right now on 5 years and 10 years, because that's the window you can plan for. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the third permit out from this one. You really need to focus on 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And it needs to be documented, and it needs to be supported. Supported in a way that it can get the approval of the council. And here's the bad news. My view, and this is my opinion, and I'm going to give you some of the data from ESD, is that I see no way, based on the review that I've done for you, that rate increases in the future can be avoided. They appear to be unavoidable. There was this lengthy period where, for whatever reason, the rate increase requests were not sufficiently justified so they could get support, and you've really fallen behind. Costs have increased in many areas, in energy, chemicals, supplies, labor. Water consumption at the same time has gone down. You had a big rate increase for 2012. But the regulatory pressure to do things is not going to go away, and your new permit is going to require additional things, and there will be, within that permit, annual things that need to be accomplished, and some of those are things that have been committed by the ESD. These are not inappropriate commitments that they've made that you need to now deliver, or allow them the funding to deliver upon. I was somewhat surprised when I did this tour of the stormwater system. From just having lived across the bay, I didn't realize how complex the stormwater system is. It's far more complex than I thought, and a lot more elements to it. The wastewater plant, I thought, would be in a whole lot better shape than what I saw. Dan Romans had described it as being in failure mode, and that's just sort of an alarmist terminology. It just really means that a lot of that equipment is out there that's beyond its normal life, and it's being repaired perhaps at a cost, probably at a cost greater than what it needs to be. If you should replace it rather than just trying to continue to repair things that are really just barely hanging together. The wastewater plant needs serious work. And what's been happening over the last several years is a lot of these shorter-term capital projects, when they've been needed, have been coming from the reserve fund. The reserve fund now has been depleted to a level that's really not comfortable, doesn't allow you to meet the commitments that you've made to your bondholders, doesn't allow the finance department to say, yeah, that there's the money there. So things are really stacked up. So Chris Bronson is going to help me. I put together a little more detailed page to support this slide as well as the next slide. This is some big numbers that we're talking about, and let me tell you what you've got here. This slide is a summary of a little more detailed handout that you're going to get. There's one with yellow on it, one just in black and white. These are not my numbers. These are numbers from the ESD, but I'm not going to leave them out to hang on this either, because there's really nothing inconsistent in their recommendations with the things that I see as needing to get done. The sorts of recommendations, the sort of capital items that are on there are all consistent with the permit requirements, and they're also consistent with things that this organization needs to accomplish. So this first one, it talks about this recommendation from 2013 to 2017, a 5-year time frame, showing your rates in 2012, the fixed rate at $5.50 per entity, the variable rate at $5.82 per 100 cubic feet, I believe it is, and what it would take to get the necessary revenues to accomplish the things that are on that more detailed sheet. The variable rate itself, if you only increase the variable rate under this recommendation, would be a 32% increase. Correctly, and I was corrected by the ESD folks, the revenue increase, since you're not increasing the base rate in this one, is only 23.57. Still big numbers. And then in future years, 3.6, 4.5, roughly 4.0, and then 2.2. That's one way to accomplish it. Another way would be to make another increase in the fixed rate. And the theory on this one is that the fixed rate would be increased to $12.20 per entity. This is the one that's got the yellow on it, the yellow highlight. That is sufficient money to pay for the $700,000 in annual shorter-term capital improvements that need to get, that's not my phone. The $700,000 that you need annually to make up for that which was coming out of your reserve funds in past years. This would put the fixed rate up to $12.20 a month, the variable rate up to 6.62. I didn't calculate what the increase is in the fixed rate, but you can all see it's more than double. The variable rate then is 20%, 20.42, 4 1/4, 5 1/4, 6 or 4.7, and then 2.5, and then it's a smaller, similar sort of an increase to the previous one in total revenue. Now there'll be some time for questions, but I'll just go through the last slide here while you're digesting that, or at least trying to come to grips with it. I didn't touch much yet on the stormwater utility. I did spend less time on the stormwater utility. It has done well since its implementation a number of years ago. There are some recommendations that I've made that the educational activities need to be increased. That came right from the DNR. Ultimately, the discharge from your facilities need to achieve a numeric reduction in the total suspended solids, the cloudiness of the discharge, 40% reduction. You've achieved 20-some percent. It needs to get better than that over a number of years. Another point, and again, some of these were highlighted in more detail in the report, a lot of the stormwater revenues right now do support portions of the overall ESD budget. If the stormwater fund were reduced, those ESD employees are probably not going to go away, because it's part of the manager, part of the administrative manager, part of various positions are funded by the stormwater funding, and you would find yourselves in a difficult position. I recommend that you use your stormwater revenues only for compliance capital projects. Now, obviously not just compliance, but on the capital projects, rather than just saying we're going to build a new storm sewer and we're going to pay for it all with the stormwater utilities. My recommendation is you try to reserve that money for the compliance-related ones, which will be coming up. And then I know that there's been discussions about rate decreases because it's a controversial topic, but at the same time, the needs in stormwater are also not going to go away. And I would just advise you, and that's all I can do is advise you, that you not reduce the overall stormwater funding and budget, because you're going to need that money in the years coming up. So that's the summary. I'm sure there are questions you may have of me. There might be questions that you have of either the ESD or the Public Works or Finance Department staff, but I would stand for any questions that you might have.
Warren?
Kurt, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you. And I don't know if anybody else did, but I read all 25 pages. I made many notes while reading through there. I like the flow chart of the employees. I think that was very well done. I noticed that you repeated things many times as far as employees and those type of needs, and also the rate increases. Page 9, rate increases will be required into the future. So, and even though rates aren't laughing matters, could you maybe contrast these two a little bit?
The one with the black and white is achieving essentially the same amount of revenue, but it's only increasing the variable fee. The one with the yellow is part of the increases on the fixed fee, part of the increases on the variable. So the fixed fee would be that $700,000 that the ESD has said they need, and I've said in the report, I don't believe that's at all inconsistent with the kind of a needs of a facility this size. That would be another way to recover that $700,000. That's the only scenario. Those were the only two scenarios provided. But the difference is the $700,000 on the black and white one is collected all in the variable. The $700,000 is collected all on the fixed rate on the one with the yellow highlights. You can also see down below what some of those projects are. There are many of them are in 2013. It's the flood control expansion. That is one of the programs that I believe you have talked about, the mayor has talked about. There's a FEMA match. The Tower Avenue project, I believe, is one that's on the planning with through the Public Works Department. The Headworks project. This is one that is only at the facility. This is one that Donahue and Associates has been working on with the ESD for quite some time. Both the EPA and the DNR have said you need to do this project. We're assuming you're going to do this project, so it is allowing improvements to get the right amount of flow into the right spots and trying to eliminate some of those overflow locations. There is then a second phase that would occur in 2014, and then you have the east second interceptor increasing capacity. These are things to design either to get more water into the right part of the plant or to just get it into the plant and avoid the overflows back along the interceptor on, is that Highway 2?
I just got a question for you. Just in relation to the fees here, what about, is Parkland considered anywhere in this equation as far as income or anything like that, or is that separate, or is this just strictly for the residents of the city of Superior?
I cannot answer that.
Yeah, this doesn't include anything for Parkland.
Doesn't include anything with Parkland?
Separate item on
Chris has said they're not included. So this is just existing customers as it stands.
Okay, so any of that income coming in from Parkland, will that maybe knock this down a little bit, or are we still looking at these figures?
I can't say for sure, but
Okay.
it would likely maybe knock it down a little bit.
A little bit?
If the same increases were applied to Parkland.
Chris is saying that perhaps there might be, that might have a positive effect, a small positive effect.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to work with you. It's been a good project, and I will be doing some additional work as the coming months go along, and perhaps you'll hear from me again, perhaps not.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kurt. Good to see you again.
Okay, and what's your pleasure? Do I hear a second? All in favor? Aye. All in favor? Adjourned.